Hey, welcome to our
You're
okay. Welcome to our first experiment with live broadcast demos and Q&A. And that's David Shadow in the background that you're seeing there. He's helping me
Hello.
with the tech. And I may have him come in and help at various points today. But we are all set up here. I'm going to practice showing you. We are all set up here to answer your questions. And I've got my sewing machine and I've got my sewing table. And I know this is our first live event, so I may not have too many people tuning in at this point. So I actually have lots of kind of fun visual learning things that we can do today. Oh, we need to turn the volume down on that
Totally.
machine.
Sorry
um,
about that.
and I also want to tell you about some of the current events that we're doing. So if you are seeing this before next week, before August 28th, right now we have a fashion sketch contest going on. This contest is for the best idea of what to do with a specific set of upcycled garments, which I can show you. But it is not a sketching contest. The contest is for the best idea of what to do with the garments. So sketching skills do help you communicate your idea, but that is not all what it's about. So I want to encourage anybody that is watching this to jump in on the sketch contest. And I have a little video that at the end of doing the live, I will put a little link to it. It has the source garments for the contest. But I'll go over to the cutting table and I will just show them to you quickly so that if you want to sketch while you are um, learning about all the kinds of sustainable things you can do to make your wardrobe more sustainable, then you can sketch. So there are lots of garments in here. So this one is like a Hawaiian shirt. This is rayon. You could dye it. There is a scarf here. This would be great for ruffles. It's a little, thin to see right through. There are, oh yeah, the yoga pants. These are super extra large, but they do have some kind of, you know, they have good elastic that could be pilfered, and they do have some kind of interesting designs on them that you could base your sketch on. There's a huge skirt. This is like a really uh, fluffy, off to the side. It has lots of godets in it, it's loud print. The elastic at the waistband is very stressed, so I wouldn't do any upcycle designs that rely on that elastic to hold things up. It might or it might not. There is this little the top is all ripped up on it, but there is a cute little uh, night air, starry stare, not a care, take me there. Cute design on it that could go into something else. We also have a huge amount of tie-dye rayon. This is all very stretchy and wonderful, and that could go into a design. I'm just going to check really quick and see if we have any chat questions yet. Nope. Okay. So every now and then, I'm going to gather things up to show you things, and I won't be on camera, but I will be here with you in audio. So this is a very long, like 90s kind of handkerchief hem vest. And it is, yep, it's a little bit, whatever, it's a little old. And then there's like a hoodie. This is actually kind of cute and doesn't need to be upcycled, except that there is fraying starting to happen at the neckline. So the neckline has really become outdated, but it's a little cropped t-shirt in, I think, size small or medium. Medium. Okay. So those are the sources for the contest. So let's come on back here, and I'm just going to check back in with you. And we're going to hit some of the questions. Sorry, I'm coming back here. We're going to hit some of the questions that came up in my last Mend and Sew to kind of start us out here today. So one of the things that came up during Mend and Sew is sort of the myth of needing the perfect sewing machine. So I think that there's a tendency, especially when we're beginning to sew. I know this was the case for me, 15 years ago when I first started sewing, to think that that there was a problem with the sewing machine that I had, and that it was because of the sewing machine that I couldn't, make the fabric do what I wanted to do because of the sewing machine. And in this case, somebody was wanting to sew a lot of heavy denims and thinking that they needed some kind of specialized machine for that, which is not actually the case. Most home sewing machines can sew right through denim. It is usually a problem with breaking the sewing machine needles. They break a lot. And what needs to happen to counteract that is usually, and let me take you to the sewing machine. We're going to go over here, and I just want to show you visually. So it'll be easier to understand. And give me a second to switch the cameras over. It'll be easier to understand visually. So what happens a lot of times when people are sewing denim is that, especially if they're upcycling, is that they're sewing across like a thick seam like this, right? And I haven't turned my machine on yet, but I can show you what I'm talking about here anyway. And they're coming up to it on, let's come at it from this direction so I can show you a little easier. They're coming up on a thick part. And what happens is that, let's make it a little thicker to exaggerate this and really show you. What happens is that the front of that presser foot is much higher than the back of the presser foot. So the machine has trouble going forward because it's trying to go uphill. And a really easy way to get past that is to, let's turn this puppy on. And I don't actually have a denim needle in here right now. I just have a ballpoint needle, which is something I would use for knits, because the last project I was sewing on was knits. And I'm using the hand crank to advance this forward. But now that that back is raised, I'm able to go through that thick part, no problem. So once you even out those two different levels, a lot of the problems with sewing denim go away. We're going to leave that there for right now, and I'm going to come on back so I can talk to you about that. So there's the myth of sewing denim. Leather has other kinds of things that you would want to do to make it work. So most home sewing machines can sew leather, they can sew denim. There's not a problem with your machine. It's just that you don't quite know how to use it yet. When I first got interested in sewing leather things, I went to Tandy Leather and I was like, hey, because they have free classes there. This was back in Seattle, I don't know, 10 years ago. So I don't know if they still do it, but it's totally worth checking it out if you're wanting to sew leather, because they have all the supplies they can sell you there. So it's in their interest to get your skills up to speed. So when I went there and I asked them what kind of machine I needed, they said, well, any home sewing machine is fine. So I didn't believe them. I didn't believe them. But now I'm here to tell you any home sewing machine is fine. It's really a matter of learning how to use it. And some of the techniques that you would do with leather to make the stitches look really good are use the machine to put holes in, but then use those holes to sew by hand. So there are certainly industrial machines that are way better at sewing leather. And if you are making a whole industry out of sewing leather things together, yeah, you might want to invest in one of those, but it's not something I'd recommend to a home sewer. Industrial machines, they're big, they're heavy, they take up a lot of space because they're built into tables, and they take off like a jet, like, so it's a whole skill. Hey, where'd my mic go? Sorry about that. It's a whole skill just learning to hit that pedal on the industrial machine slow enough that you don't go boom. Okay, so please trust your sewing machine and take the time to learn the skills that you need to make it work. You don't need a new sewing machine. That's another myth. The machine I was just demoing on is probably 50 years old. I can't remember. It looks previous to the 70s, but and it sews zigzag and it sews front and back, and that is 95% of what you need. The one other stitch that I find kind of helpful is the overlock stitch on modern machines. Sometimes I use them to make buttonholes. If I'm sewing denim, I don't. If I'm sewing a waistband, I don't. There are lots of times where the automatic buttonhole hole function doesn't even work that great for what you're doing. So um, you can do pretty much everything you need to do on almost any sewing machine. So that is just a total myth. Don't believe it, and don't spend money that you don't need to on a sewing machine. I'm going to be making a video here really soon about just checking my chat window on getting your first sewing machine, where we're going to go over the different options, what you can get new, what you can get used, how to test it out. So I'm a little bit amped up on that stuff right now. But let's look at something visual. So I'm going to take you back over to the sewing table, and I'm going to show you kind of a pillow project that I've been working on, and I have my little proof of concept piece, and I thought I'd show you what I'm doing. Okay, let's see. We need, nope, not the sewing machine. We need the sewing table. Ooh, and it's getting very bright out, so I'll have to fix the light on the sewing machine here in a minute. Arr, come on, there it is. Sewing table, not sewing machine. Okay, you are getting bright. Okay, coming around. So what you see here is my little proof of concept thing. So I like texture. I think texture is a whole lot of fun. And so I was thinking of making some pillowcases out of this old pillowcase of mine. I've repaired it quite a few times, and I'm just, I'm ready for something different. I could clean it up, fix the zipper and all that kind of stuff instead. I've been, craving a more casual look for my living room. And I have all this denim. People have donated all these things to me. And then this year I've decided not to keep selling upcycles, which is also a whole nother video I could make for you if you're interested in knowing why I'm not doing craft fairs and stuff like that anymore. Just let me know, and bada bing, that'll be the next thing I talk about. But so what I did here is a little proof of concept for a much bigger piece. So this is I'm getting ready to make the bigger piece right now. So this is the front of the pillow. And then on the back of the pillow, this goes to, this is about the middle, and it's going to overlap with a hemmed edge by a little bit. So the back is not going to have the texture on it. So this is the size of the piece that I need to do this for. And this is actually a time sink. And I know that sewing can be tedious. So if you haven't sewn before, you should know that it does take time, but it's very mindless. So for me, it's very zen and calming in the same way that gardening is. So it really helps me de-amplify. On this side, on my test strip, I don't know if you're picking up this level of detail, but it's about every ½ inch that I sewed along here. And what I did is I sewed each one of these, kind of folded over one at a time. And I'll take it to the sewing machine, and you can see what this looks like in a minute here. I shredded some denim, so it's already shredded. So I'm not going to demo that today, but if you do want a demo on this pillowcase thing, I can show you the whole thing. And then I cut my frayed strips to approximately the same width. I did not measure. I used something in upcycling I do a lot, is I just look at how wide my hand is, or my finger. This is my ½ inch seam. This is my, I don't know how long these strips are going to be. So that's what I use, is I use a visual reference that I can see really easy, which is my hand. So for upcycling, I like to make it as easy as possible. And when high accuracy is not needed, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, let me switch us over to the sewing machine so I can show you that. Sewing machine, there we go. Okay. Oh, wait. No, I need something to sew these onto. Let's come on back to this table real quick here. I think I have, yes. Wow. Okay. So I'm to demo this, I'm just going to do a few rows on here. So I need to mark my rows, and here I do measure because I want a nice straight line. So let me take this out from underneath so we can just see a little better where the edge of this is. And I'm just using a pencil to mark it. It's going to be buried under a bunch of denim, so I'm not too worried about it, right? So I'm just using this to draw my little lines that those fringes are going to get sewn along. Okay, and that's enough to show you how this technique works. Now I'll take you over to the sewing machine. Oops. Hello, sewing machine. Oh, wait, did I just have the wrong? I did just have the wrong one up. Ugh, I feel so embarrassed. So I've got my sewing table up now. Yes, I do. Okay, that was a little confusing. So I just did a whole demo on the wrong machine. Gotta love the learning curve here. Okay, and if you do pop in live and see that something's wonky or you can't hear me or something like that, if a mic goes down or a camera battery goes down, please let me know. David is not here with me during the whole time that I'm here to answer your questions. Okay, so what I've done here is I've made marks every ½ inch so that I have a guide to sew down my fringe along. I'm going to grab my little fringes and we're going to go now to the sewing machine. Yep, there's the sewing machine. Oh my gosh, it's getting brighter in here every time I go to it. Let me just shut that down so it's a little easier for you to see. I'm doing this camera manually. It's my main camera. Okay, so let's get supplies together. I need snips. I cannot work at the sewing machine without my snips. There you are. And I might want some scissors too. Okay, scissors, snips. Let's get this little demo I was showing you before out of the way. And so what I'm going to do, are you on, baby? I really can't tell if you're on. There you are. So this little vintage machine, I had to buy a new foot pedal for it, and it's just never fit really securely. So I'm just eyeballing the middle of this, and I'm giving it a fold over. I'm going to give a little tiny back tack here at the beginning, and I'm starting about ½ inch from the edge so I have room for the seam allowance when I put the layers of the pillowcase together. And so I'm just back tacking a little, and then I'm going to leave that needle in, and I'm going to shove this puppy under and about equidistance on each side, and I'm just going to sew right over it. And then I'm going to do the next one. I'm just going to shove that in about equidistance, get my bottom layer flat, and just go right over it. And I just keep adding these on like this. So it's not actually very, it's not forever to sew this down. It's kind of forever to make the little strips, but to sew them together, not so bad. And I'll just get to the end of this one little row and show you what I do when I get to the next row, which is kind of predictable. So again, I'm leaving ½ an inch at the edge, which I didn't do on my little proof of concept one. And boom, there's my first row. We'll get these little stringies out. It's a really good habit to remove all of your threads as you go because they just pile up on you otherwise. Okay, so we got one row done, and what I do is I just push that off to the side, and then we're going to start on the next row. Whee! I do make sound effects, it's true. Again, coming in about ½ an inch. Just going to give it a little back tack to lock that down. And then I will take more fringes and I will move forward with them. Oh, heck. One more down so that I can lift my foot up and get in under there to get that first one started. Right? And I don't know, I guess I didn't feel confident about my back tack. And this is the technique that I used on my little proof of concept. Here, I'll just do a couple more. I'm on a roll. I want to finish another row, right? So here's one that's about the right length. And you know, if it's not the right length, I can cut it off on the top later. I'm really not about precision. We don't have more cut, so let's get some more cut. I'm going to cut them all at once because that'll be the fastest thing to do. And there we go. There's 3 more. This looks like about the same length. And I have my bag of fabric scraps. I like to save all these. I have a friend that she does pillows and her mom does quilting, and she uses fabrics that are left over for stuffing the pillow. That combined with fiber fill around the outside edge, but so the bulk of it becomes fabric. So there is all I did, and I would do this whole layer like this. So that's the technique I'm exploring right now that I'm so excited about. Okay, let's go back to my main camera and see, do I have any questions in my chat window? You know, am I looking? Nope, top chat. I think there's nothing in there. Wait. Welcome to live chat. Okay. It just says welcome to live chat. All right, let's get back here. You guys need my face? Do you need my face? Face cam. Okay. So I told you about the contest. What are some other things I wanted to tell you about? Oh, I have another. This is an offer for you. And anybody that is watching this, I can't believe you've made it this far with me. That is just so awesome. So I'm building out my curriculum for what kinds of videos I want to make next. And I'm excited to make little mini courses. So there's a playlist that'll take you A to B through a series of videos that build on each other. Because one thing that I've been finding at my Mend and Sew events, and this is really Gina sort of said this to me, is she's like, I'd like some actual sewing lessons, right? And I do free sewing events to help promote the classes that I teach, right? So I haven't made content on YouTube yet that covers the same thing because I've been teaching in the world, but I think I want to sort of bring it all back to YouTube. So some of the classes that have been most popular are easy alterations, so that if you buy something secondhand, you know very easily how to crop it, how to hem it, how to repair a seam, how to bring it in at the waist, how to put an applique over something that you don't like a logo, those kinds of things. And also learning just basic sewing skills. So the sewing course would take you from, hey, I don't even know how to thread a sewing machine, but I really want a more sustainable wardrobe. And I know that learning to sew will unleash my creativity and allow me to, add and rework a lot of the garments I have in a way that's going to make them better and more interesting. And it'll teach you all of the skills that you need to be able to do, like at that with 10 basic sewing skills like hemming and altering and things like that. You'll have about 100 different projects that you'll then have the skills to do. Not advanced projects, but basic projects, but 90% of what you would really actually want to do with your wardrobe anyway. So that kind of a transformation from, I don't know what I'm doing, to, hey, I can really sew. And when you've done 50 or 100 projects, you're just naturally going to progress into advanced skills without even having to try. Like, you won't need an organized curriculum to get forward at that point. And I know what happens for a lot of people is we see YouTube videos and they come and they go in 5 seconds. And the one thing that I would really want you to know is that it takes a lot longer than 5 seconds to do. You might see an outfit built and an overview of the steps in, I say 5 seconds, but what's TikTok is 90, is it 60? I'm not a TikToker, I'm a YouTuber, so I'll have to explore that. But even me, when I make demos and I condense the time because we're doing the same thing again and again, it distorts expectations. So one thing that I would really stress to somebody coming into learning to sew is to be patient and really adjust your time expectations. It can take, an hour just to learn how to thread up a machine. Like, I can show you in 15 minutes, but then you need to practice. You need to have a few little problems. I need to come over and help sort you out, or you have to search it on the internet. All these things take time to learn. And even when you have skills, all the time I think, oh, that'll take me an hour and it takes me 2. It is natural for us to underestimate the effort needed. This is a good thing because we would never start on anything if we knew how long it was really going to take. And that's just not dinner. We wouldn't make dinner if we knew how long it would actually take to make it. No, I think maybe we'd make dinner anyway. Okay, so that idea of going from I don't know how to sew to I'm an experienced upcycler. And my emphasis is always going to be upcycling. It's never working with virgin materials. I am here 100% to help you sew And I want to teach resourcefulness because we just can't keep throwing all this stuff out. And why on earth would we throw all these clothes out and go and buy brand new fabric? There are mountains and mountains of fabric. Quilters, hear me on this. There are mountains and mountains of fabric being thrown out every day. You have the skills, you could help. Start using those the old clothes in your quilts instead of buying quilting squares. Like what is this with wasting virgin materials? Well, anyway, okay, off the high horse, onto I am an upcycler. And that because of that, I am formally trained. So I did go to fashion design school, right? And I learned how to do everything the right way. But I'm not necessarily going to teach the right way. I'm going to teach the easiest, fastest way that's going to make your clothes look good. And I do think there's a big difference between upcycling and I'm going to call it downcycling. Upcycling is going to make a garment that is more valuable to more people. And downcycling is going to make a garment that is valuable to fewer people. So I'm also a fan of downcycling because if you are making something that is just valuable to you but won't be valuable to somebody else, but you're going to want it for your whole life because it has personal meaning to you, then I'm a fan of that too. Um, but I want to teach upcycling skills, which is where you can rework a garment in a way that it works for you, but somebody else is also likely to want that after your size has changed, or you're in a different climate, or you're in a different part of your life where you don't wear your professional clothes anymore, or you're in a part of your life where you don't wear your casual clothes anymore. All those clothes, it would be great to find them new homes. And if we upcycle them, then they're available for that. Whereas if we downcycle them, yeah, their life's over. They sit in our closet or in landfill, which is sad. Um, okay, so upcycling versus downcycling. The other curriculum that I'm thinking of making, and I'd like your input on this. I'm really feeling that asking people to learn how to sew, it's a big ask. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. It's not a skill that comes easily. I think that's one thing that draws me to it is it has challenge. It has engineering and mathematical skills, it has spatial skills, it has mechanical skills, working with the sewing machines. So it's a great thing to teach young people. So at a young age, I learned how to do this stuff, and it's been so super good for my mind. Like I was in the 98th percentile on the Stanford Achievement Test for spatial reasoning when I was a kid because I had made a lot of doll clothes and I could just think like that. I could think in 3 dimensions and I could see it visually. So it's a really great skill to learn, but it's a big ask for most people. So the other course that I'm interested in offering is a transformation from somebody who is a trend follower, right? And they've realized that fast fashion is sort of corrupt, it's not good ethically, it's not good environmentally, and they really don't want to be part of that anymore, but they still want to be very stylish. Maybe they're working in the arts and they need to have a professional look that's fun and funky and and informed, or maybe they're working in the environment and they can't be wearing fast fashion because people would laugh them out of the room. Or maybe they are dating educated people. That's another situation where upcycling might be taking priority over fast fashion. So I want to help those people go from buying the trends and buying new to introducing sustainability into their wardrobe, and not with just minimalism. Like there's a lot of minimalism out there right now that is not stylish. What's passing for style right now is completely yawn worthy. You are not a style leader if people are not saying, wow, I like your outfit. So taking somebody from being a fast fashion buyer to being a style leader where regularly you're getting compliments on the things that you're wearing, and you actually have to take risks and be a little edgy to do that. And because nobody's going to comment on your white t-shirt and blue jeans. They're not. I mean, they might say you have a great figure, they might say you look good. They're not going to say, wow, that's super stylish. It's just not. It's basic. so um, so those are the two kinds of curriculums that I'm thinking of. And in the second one, there's a lot of clothing care. There's some fun things like I've been using some apps to do a lot of my styling lately, and that's super fun. There's disposing of clothes responsibly at the end of their life. So figuring out what to do with your clothes. It's not donating. I think if you don't know where your donations actually end up, then, well, you should get a little informed because, yes, we want to donate our very good usable items that the thrift store charity can sell and make money off of to a charity that will make good use of them. But that's not 90, 80, 90% of what happens with clothes we donate to thrift stores because, first of all, what we're giving them is just not high enough quality that anybody would actually want it. That's a big problem. And then we're not giving it to them when it's in season and we're not cleaning it and on and on and on. We're kidding ourselves and lying to ourselves about what's going to happen with our clothes when we donate them. That's kind of donating / dumping them. Okay, so if you don't want to do that, there's content that I could do around that. I feel like it's time to do something visual. So let's go over and I want to look at this little unboxing project that I've got. So let me get my overhead camera going. Overhead camera. Boom. Turning off this camera. All right. And I'm coming on over here. So because I'll be doing a video on beginning sewing machines, because that's in the course of learning to be an upcycler, one of the things we're going to do is learn to sew. And a lot of people are like, I just want the cheapest, easiest machine ever. So I got this Handy Stitch. The reviews on Amazon were like 4,000 4-star reviews. I haven't seen any handheld sewing machines that were not complete garbage yet. To me, this looks like landfill, and I fully expect that I will be returning it and not keeping it, but I would be delighted to have that not be true. I'd be delighted to be proven wrong. So I'm hoping to be proven wrong. I think it's great that they have, look, snips. Are they the good ones? No, they're terrible. They're not like my snips. The snips I have are great. They're really inexpensive. You get a bunch of them all at once. And I have a bunch because I teach classes, but you probably only need one or two. All right, so let's see. What I'm seeing here is that they've given me some fabric to sew on. And I can see this is the easiest fabric that you could possibly sew on. So they've set you up to win and to make their sewing machine look good. And they've also given me a whole bunch of thread, and it's all wound up on bobbins in a lot of common colors. So that's kind of nice. A little measuring tape, some safety pins, a broken threader. That's hilarious. This is, no, it's a different version of a threader than what I've seen before. It's not broken. It's not hilarious. It is just different than what I'm used to. And they've given me one sewing machine needle. I don't know if this is a standard needle. So that's one thing I want to look at real quick here is if this is a standard needle or if I need a specialty needle for this machine. Because if I do need a specialty needle for this machine, that makes it a lot less valuable. So the one thing that I'm looking at here is that this sewing machine needle is completely round. It doesn't have a flat side. So there's no specific direction it goes in at. And that means it is special and unique to this machine. I'm happy that they're giving me this needle because it means that the needle is replaceable. And I'm optimistic that you could buy more needles, but it's not going to be the easiest thing to find ever because it's not universal. Okay, and there's a little manual. It looks like somebody may have used it before, or maybe I opened this and shoved it in. There is a little charger device. So it looks like I need a USB charger to be able to charge and run this. Hopefully they put a little bit of power in it to begin with. And I'm really happy that I don't have to get batteries, disposable, or batteries that are not the best thing to put in landfill. Okay, so we've got all kinds of information on here about how to thread it. The bobbin, the needle arm, the needle guide, and I'm just looking at, this is a hard guide to get in, so compared to like a sewing machine where you can slide them in from the side, this is one that I'm going to have to thread it through every time. So that is not as good as it could be. The tension screw, so it goes through the guide, up through the screw, it looks like, and then down through the needle. And the threader has a little hook on it, and extension spindle. Where is my extension spindle? And do I really need it? Is that what this is? On off switch. Okay. Note, always use rotary wheel to move the needle. Rotary wheel is this. So this is going to move my needle up and down. Look, I can open it up. That's kind of nice. So I can see already how I can get in here to thread my needle and to close it. And I can also see that when it's properly threaded, they've started with it properly threaded, that it needs to go under this whole little plate here, which is going to be the tension plate. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Note, always use rotary, never press or pull directly on needle arm to avoid damages. Comes with test fabric material in the needle. Item is not used, spelled wrong. Please kindly noted. So the English in the manual is questionable. Note, 4 AA batteries are not included in the package. So we do need batteries. Great. That is a bummer. Well, what's the point of this then? I think, do I want to keep looking at this with you now? I think that this is about as far as I want to go without actually reading through this whole manual. And I think it would be so boring for you to have me read through the manual. So I've unboxed it, and we'll come back and I will experiment with it and then show you how to use it. And then I will decide if I want to keep it or not. I think this was about $15. I can see that if it breaks, that I can unscrew it. So there are a couple places to unscrew it. Possibly parts can be replaced, which is better than the other kind of toy machines that I've seen. So far, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. One thing that I have noticed with, sorry about the camera, one thing I've noticed with other toy machines that I've seen in the past is that it's really hard to run the machine with one hand and control your fabric going through with the other. Like the difference between a machine that's sitting on a table and where you have two hands to maneuver your fabric with, and this is pretty pronounced. So this might be exciting for somebody that doesn't know how to sew, but for anybody that's used a full-on grown-up sewing machine, this seems like it's going to be kind of janky and very challenging. Okay, so that is, we're going to just set this aside. Woo. Let me put things back in here. Okay, so that's kind of fun. I think we might go on. We have another sort of mini sewing machine that we've unboxed. So I got this other one because I have a friend. I have a friend, and they wanted to get their daughter a sewing machine. And they got her one. It wasn't actually a child's sewing machine, but it was a off-brand, very cheaply made sewing machine. And it's also garbage. Like, I don't want to tell her that because it would crush her. Like, somebody gave her this present. She's so excited to have her own machine. But every time she shows up for a little sewing lesson with it, I cringe because it's so much harder to thread, and it jams up so much easier. And it's just this little kind of plastic. I mean, a lot of machines are made out of plastic, but there's plastic, and then there's made to be landfill plastic. So that's what, here I've gotten myself basically what is called a toy sewing machine or a kid's sewing machine. Anything that says it's for like a kid like 8 to a 12-year-old, that basically means they know we're selling to an undiscerning parent who doesn't care. They just want their kid to be happy they got them a sewing machine. But they're buying probably more frustration than anything else for their poor kid, because sewing machine's already a little bit frustrating. Whoa, things are flying all over. Sorry. I'm doing a terrible job showing you what's coming out of here. So these are power cord, and this is just styrofoam that went flying. So I think, look how cute it is. I mean, it's so cute. Of course people want this to be something good and work. So the problems I've had with these small machines is, again, it's so lightweight that it's really, at least you can set this one down, you know, but it's so lightweight that it kind of tips all over the place. It's tipping right now, not because the bottom's not flat, but because there's plastic on the bottom. So we're going to just open it up so it can sit normally. This one also seems to want batteries, right? So I'm not loving the battery thing. I don't want to be flying through batteries with anything. That makes me a little sad. And we're going to kind of have the same thing on this one, where we're going to look at it a little, but I'm going to actually spend time on my own with it before I do, before I talk about it in a video. So this, it does have screws, so you could get to the inside. So that's something good. I'm not sure if this uses a standard bobbin or not. It doesn't seem like it would. And also, I don't know about the needle yet. So I'm just not going to tear this apart until I've had time to read through it. I'm a read the directions kind of person. So I'm excited to check this out and let you know what I think of it later. But so this is a Magic Fly. It didn't have the same 5,000 reviews, and it was a lot more expensive. I think the other one, oh, this goes with the other one. The other one was like $15, and this was, I think, $35. You can get a very good used sewing machine for about $50 on Facebook Marketplace. So when you look at the difference between this and an actual functional, you know, 2-year-old sewing machine that's made for beginners, I already like the other more, because one problem here is, like, could you imagine sewing a pair of jeans? Like, if you are more than 12, those jeans are never going to fit through there. Like, when you try and turn them and shove that fabric through, it's just not going to go. Like, you better have a small body if you're sewing jeans on this. So I feel like this is the kind of sewing machine that would just make you want a real sewing machine. This seems like it should come down here, and it's not. Like, there's no, I don't know. But we're going to try sewing something with it before we pass judgment on it. I am going to say it's super cute. Okay, let's go back, see if anybody's dropping me any chat questions. Are there any chat questions? No, there are no chat questions. Yes, I am here all by myself, talking about things relevant to upcycling and sewing. I'm here for you because I want to help with changing the way that we think about clothes. I want to help with the lack of skill and knowledge that we have. I mean, one reason, I was talking to one of the folks in my Mend and Sew yesterday, and I was saying, I was expressing my opinion that you know, about upcycling and downcycling, and they were saying, I think that there's just not enough knowledge out there. And it's so funny because there's so much on YouTube, but it doesn't all translate. Watching videos doesn't translate to actually sewing things. So one of the things that I am excited to try in my courses here, I just want to come back and talk to you for a minute. I'm just tired of being at the table. Let's come back and boom. One of the things that I am excited to do with this online venue and having courses is when I teach something and people try it, have an actual cohort. So there's going to be a couple options. One is, you know, there's just the free playlist on YouTube. But also, I'd like to put together cohorts. So if you see that you're interested in one of these little courses that I'm putting together, and you and you sign up to be in a cohort, then once a month we'll get together, and once a week you'll get together with your cohort, and there'll be the video that you watched and the technique that you learned and you practiced it, and you'll get together with your cohort and you will talk about if somebody got stuck somewhere, you'll help each other out, because when you teach something you've just learned, it's really valuable, and some things are going to sink for some people and not for others. So you'll do that, you'll help each other out, and then questions that you have that you can't figure out, things that I didn't explain clearly, or that you don't, that you need more information on, or just anything weird that happened with your particular fabric or design, you'll let me know, and I can take it to a Q&A format here and answer it visually. And then at the end of that playlist will be all of the answers to questions that have come up for previous students. So if you have a question as the cohorts go along, there'll be a bigger and bigger body of knowledge. Because one thing that's missing from the whole YouTube teaching thing is all of the problems that we have along the way. Like the influencers don't go very deep into all the things that can go wrong, because there's a lot of pressure to give you, in a shiny, happy way, all the fast answers, right? So then when you actually go and try and do the things that you've seen, happen in 2 minutes, oh, here's how I make underwear in 5 minutes, 100 times a day, um, then you try and do it and you run into problems, and they didn't address those because they were condensing time and just showing you how it works, not how it doesn't work. So I really want to be able to address all of the problems that you run into along the way. And some things are a matter of practice, but a lot of things are also, knowledge that I've acquired by making mistakes and trying different things or learning from other people, that I could just make it so much easier for you with. Uh, and so I want to be able to sort you out. That's the thing that I'm excited to be able to do, and that's why I'm doing this live feed Q&A test, to see if we can't get to the point where I can be doing that kind of actively as I build out the curriculum. So the other big offer I have for folks is that I would like to make sure that I'm giving you what you need. So I need to know a lot more about what you want. And I know that you haven't thought that much about it yet. So it's hard to say, oh, here's what I want. So what would be great would be to jump on a Zoom call together. Like I'm looking for 20 or 30 of my people to actually jump on a Zoom call with me and uh, talk through the different things that I'm thinking of offering, and figure out which ones are going to seem like they're going to be the highest value to you, so that I can front load with those. I can put those up front. Now, some things you have to know this to build on that. Like if you're going to learn how to sew, number one, you need to know how to thread up a machine. Number two, you probably need to buy a machine or borrow one. I'm big on borrowing, and I have lots of ideas where you could do that. And then, so there's a progression to it. And then there are projects that are really, really beginner friendly, that these are the first basic 2 or 3 projects that are really worth learning to do, and that are going to inform everything else you do. And then beyond that, it's really a matter of, okay, well, what would you find most valuable? So if you do that Zoom call with me, if you spend 30 minutes talking to me about what kinds of content that I'll put together for you this next year, then I will spend 30 minutes on your specific wardrobe, doing a wardrobe assessment with you, figure out which are your most valuable pieces, and come up with ideas for how you can incorporate or reincorporate or revise easily the things that you're not wearing as much, so that we can keep it valuable to you. And we can also make a plan for anything that you're wanting to regift or rehome. So we're trying to get away from the habit of purging. Purging is, there's not enough thought to purging, right? There's not enough thought on how those things came into your life, and there's not enough thought about where they're going next. And what I really want people to take away, and what I'm building in my life that I'm so excited about and that I love, is resourcefulness. It's not hoarding; it's resourcefulness. So, and I want to streamline all this and make it the best economy of effort for you possible. I really want to make sure that like you have the easiest upcycling techniques that require the least amount of knowledge and training, the least amount of time, because most people are in the thick of their life, in the thick of working, in the thick of relationships and maintaining, already a whole bunch of priorities. And one of the reasons that we've gotten to where we are is because we don't want to think that much about our clothes. We want to look good, but we don't want to have to work very hard at it. Well, I wouldn't say that. I think that there are a lot of people that actually enjoy the process, that for them, thrift shopping or shopping in general is an expression of creativity. It's definitely an expression of identity, whether you want it to be or not. Your clothes are saying a lot to the world about who you are and what you value, right? So I think it's fun for a lot of people, but even so, we can't necessarily prioritize it when we need to take the kids to the hospital, or I fell and I hurt my knee and I can't walk for 6 months. Am I going to be thinking about my clothes? Heck no. I'm holed up at home a lot, right? Or whatever's going on. There are a lot of different pressures, so I want to be able to streamline it for you, which is not this 2-hour Q&A session today. It only needs to be 2 hours if you actually come with me for questions about how to do things. Otherwise, it could be 10 or 15 minutes. So they might get shorter. Like what I'm thinking of next time we do this experiment, which I have to say that I'm happy with the tech. Like we have a little bit of inability to record what's going on, but I'm happy with the 3-camera setup and the ability to see things. I think on the sewing machine camera, I might want to zoom in sometimes and zoom out wider, so that I might vary that a little bit more to show you different things. Let's try working through a project, okay? I don't think there's going to be anybody here in the chat, but if somebody shows up and you need to get my attention, I will try and check in every 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to just try and remember whenever I finish a little task to come back over here and check in. So what I want to do today for my own project, and let's just see where we're at. We're about halfway through our 2 hours, so this is a great time to start on a project. I'm not going to start on the pillow project because that is a lot of the same. So I don't feel like it would be very high value for you. But I have a little shirt here. And this is I think a common problem is people have knits. And we're going to find out if the vintage machine over there that I have, we're going to find out whether or not it can handle a double needle, and whether or not we can sew this up the way that I like to on it, or whether I have to make some kind of compromise to show you. But one thing that came up in our last Mend and Sew is that people are intimidated by knits. So today we're going to have a look at this little knit. It's got a little hole here. Let's see. Can you see it here? It's got, okay, we can't see it there. Let me see. Can we? Yes, no. There's the hole. No, I totally can't see it. Okay, let me try taking it to the sewing machine table and putting it in close up there and see if we can see it there. Can you see that little hole now? Does it show up over here? Are we close enough that can you see that there's that little hole there? Okay, my point is the easiest way for me to deal with that hole, instead of mending it, is to crop the shirt a little shorter. So let me go now to the sewing table. I'm going to clear off some of our clutter from unboxing things. Let me put that aside. And I'm going to just take a minute to clear the pillow project away. So with live feed, I think I have to have my projects like a little stacked up and ready to go and ready to put aside quickly for you. So figuring out what that looks like today. Okay. Woo. And definitely by the time we get playback, I'm going to trim a whole bunch of this down. I might let me babble, but we're going to trim down all of this part. Okay, so we don't need that. And this is another project we could do, so we're going to put that aside. And I'm just going to take a minute to put all of the contest garments away, away, away. All of the contest garments are now back in their box. Okay, so there is this tiny hole. And what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to cut the bottom of this top. Oh, here's another hole over here. Here's a hole that is too high for me to crop out. So I'm going to come up with another solution for that hole later. And for right now, I see a hole here, I see a hole here, I see a hole here, I see a hole here. For right now, I'm going to crop to just below here so that when I fold the hem over, that is not going to be in. Now I like to, I'm just grabbing some tools from the other side of the table. I like to use my rotary cutter when I'm doing things, but you might not have a rotary cutter. So again, I'm going to be kind of general with this, and I'm going to use my hand to measure it. And I'm going to say from the tip of my finger to that crease at my wrist, and then I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to measure the same thing. I like to do a slightly curvy hem. That is more challenging. So if it's your first hem, please do a straight hem because it'll just be a little bit more challenging and probably nobody will notice. Okay, so I'm marking those points, and then I also want to get a good idea where the middle is so that I'm just approximately in the middle, at least approximately. Whee! And boom, there's the middle. Can I see that from this side? Yeah, okay. So I've got a pretty good idea where the middle is. There's my line that I'm coming down to. I'm going to want to go a little lower than that. And now I'm just going to cut from my place up here. And it's important that your fabric lay flat. If it doesn't lay flat, let me just show you quickly what happens when you cut. I'm going to cut lower than I want to be. When you cut and it's not flat, you get jagged edges. So we want to kind of stretch it a little bit flat as we're cutting it. I'm going to cut 1 finger length below where I want to be. So that's about 1/2 inch. And to get it flat, I'm just giving a slight pull, right? So that's making it kind of even out. Okay, now I'm going to do the other side with a rotary cutter. My favorite device. I did it the first side with the scissors so that you know what that can look like. It's much more likely that you have scissors. Where's my release on here? There it is. Okay. And again, I like a curved hem, so I'm going to try and get approximately the same shape by folding this over also. Yeah, there we go. That gives me an idea that maybe I'm a little bit higher up on this side than I thought. So I'm just going to kind of mirror image it, and I'm going to blend down there. Okay, so now I've got the crop that I want. I don't know, this is a little pokey right there, so I'm just going to smooth out my lines by eyeball. Upcyclers are allowed to eyeball in a way that, you know, fashionistas and fashion designers really can't. So now we're going to have a shorter shirt, and you know, that's fine. It's fine that it's shorter. If I want it to look like it was really made that way, instead of leaving this edge to curl, which it's a choice, it's a design choice, and it's easy, and you could definitely do that. I just want to validate that in general, most knits, they don't fray that much, but they do tend to curl. And this one, there's some evidence that in the original manufacture that it did curl a lot, and that's why those hems are so wonky. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to turn off my AC so we don't blow a fuse, is I am going to press my hem up. If I don't press it, it tends to migrate on me and have a lot more of those wrinkled curved hems, we call them drag lines that you were just looking at. And I'm coming over here to grab my iron. I'm going to just, it takes a minute for it to warm up. And I'm going to turn this shirt inside out so that we can hem the bottom. So I'm just turning it inside out so that when I'm pressing it towards the inside. We don't want to see the hem, we want it on the inside. And this is the first step. And as I sweep around to the other side of the table, I'm just going to check, make sure that no one has any questions. That's fine. Okay. Whoa, that was a cord that I didn't want to step on. Is everybody okay? All my cameras are still working? Hi. Oh, have I been demoing this the whole time? I was on me and not on my camera. So I need someone to switch this. That's the truth. I should not do this alone. I will have to find a volunteer to switch the camera for me and to pay attention to the chat window. And that is good to know. Live feed should not be done alone. So what you've missed in all the excitement is that I just cut the bottom off first. Okay, so we've cut off the bottom. Not a hard thing to do. And now we're going to go around and we're going to press it inward. And I'm going to press it up about the width of my finger. So one thing that's great about knits is that when you want it to curve inward, it has a better tendency to do that because the fabric can absorb that. So it's actually wider on a curve, wider at the bottom than it is at the top. So it's sort of easier to block your fabric. So you see how it sort of pokes up there? On a woven fabric, it's much harder to get that poke to sort of blend in like this is. See how it's blending in? And I'm not actually pinning it. I'm not big on pinning. I am sort of big on pressing. Okay, so all of this is, I'm just going to come around a little farther. And again, I can kind of see that it's all about the same width because I'm using my finger to measure it. Okay. And I know I got it a little wider in some places, but this is a very uncritical place. It doesn't have to match anything. It's a place the fabric tends to be wrinkled anyways, like a pulling up around somebody's waist. So it's not something I would consider crucial to get exactly right. We want it to look even, and that is the most important part. And hopefully I'm all well into the camera, but not getting steam right up in it. I know every time I do this, the steam goes. I'm like, oh, can you see? I don't know. It's kind of fun. Okay, so the myth of me being able to do this by myself is dissipating because of that moment where I didn't have the camera going. And there we are, back around to the front. Okay, so I've pressed my hem in. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to see if we can let me switch this to the sewing machine. That was this. So now we're going, oh, you're seeing me. I want to turn me off and I want to turn that camera off. So we're on the sewing machine. Yay. And we have all that fun denim stuff. We're going to put that aside. Make a little space here. Okay, and now I'm on this camera. Hopefully this won't be the moment that the batteries go down. Yeah, we knew this first one was going to be, you know, a learning experience. Okay, well, one thing that's good is I already have black thread in here, which is, I feel like, a good color for this. I could change to gray. I think I will, on the top at least. So what I want to do here, if I can, is I want to put a double needle in here. And I look at the presser foot. I mean, I look at the plate. What is the word I'm looking for? The something plate. Somehow my brain is not getting it right now. But when I look down there, the opening, that's the part that's important. The opening down here, I just want to show you by taking this off. This is a good size opening, so I think that a double needle on here will work fine. Let's see if I can find one. So what you often see in hems, I'm going to just grab a hem really quick to show you what you often see. Okay, but we're all used to, nope, no, it's not one. Okay, this is one. So what we're all used to seeing in our hems on t-shirts and stuff like that is basically like a double needle. So there are 2 rows of stitching, and on the back side, the fact that these 2 rows of stitching are connected there, in our case, the top thread will have to be looping on the bottom to reach the middle bobbin thread, and that's going to give it a little bit of stretch. So this is the easiest way to put a stretch stitch in and hem knits, and it's nothing that you should be intimidated by. It's not any harder than putting a double needle in. So a double needle is exactly what it sounds like. Let's get you out here. You don't have to take this off to put a double needle in. I took that off so that I could show you the mouth of the. My brain is not capturing the word today for this part of the sewing machine. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to take out this needle, and usually there's right next to the sewing machine, there's somewhere that you can take the needle out. And this was 80 ballpoint. I'm just putting it aside because I can keep track of it that way. And I'm going to take the flat side of the needle, and that goes to the back, and I'm going to put it up in here again. Now, yesterday, I had some trouble with not getting my needle all the way up in, so I'm being extra careful of that today, and I'm tightening it down. And now, before I get all excited and thread, I'm just making sure that there is room for that needle to go through the plate, and it can. That's wonderful news. Okay, we're getting there. So we're going to put this back on here. There you go, around like that. Tighten this down, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you didn't know that, that's generally how things go together, right tight, left loose. There you go. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure, let me widen up our view so that you can see what's going on up top here. Okay, because and it wants me to change batteries too. So I'm gonna have a little battery change moment. Don't freak out. We'll give you something else to look at while I'm doing it. I will give you the overhead camera right there. Nope, that's locking it, not what I want. Don't get locked. Okay, there's the overhead camera. So this doesn't freak you out. We're gonna pop that out. And we're gonna pop a new battery in. And come on back to life. Camera's waking up, it's thinking about it. Okay, let's see if the other camera will be visible now. Oh no, honey, I need help. It's the ESO utility. Maybe I just need to turn it off and on again. So I had to change batteries, and then this says yeah. So how do we get rid of that?
Let's take a look.
Okay. We are troubleshooting right now. One of the cameras, the one that I can show you how to put a double needle in with, is gone down when I swap the battery. So we're trying to get it back up. And David knows what to stop. Okay, great. We're back into the game. All right. Okay. Oh, you're so dusty, Lucia. Miss Prada, we need to get you cleaned. Okay. So what's going to happen up here is that we're basically going to have two threads. So I don't have a second layer of gray all threaded up already. So first you get to watch me thread some gray because that's all part of the process. And I'm not going to thread, ugh, these are so hard to get open. There you are. I'm not going to thread a whole spool. I'm going to use a little bobbin as my second spool of thread. So we're just going to put some of this onto a bobbin. And it doesn't have to match this machine. So I just need to remember some machines are very picky about their bobbins. This one wants class 66 bobbins. I'm not using the bobbin as a bobbin, so I can grab any one I want. I just have to remember not to try and put it in the machine later. So I am going to thread this puppy up, and this new thing of thread has, oh, it's so stuck in there. Can you come on out? It's like it's under 5 layers of thread, so I don't know quite where it comes out. Come on, baby. I think it's this one. Ooh, I got lucky. Joy. Okay, let's get your, can you please stay out of the way? Thank you. Okay, this is a cap to hold this on here. And then to thread her up, I'm assuming that it goes this way. It's been a long time since I looked at directions. And this is an older machine, so it doesn't have clues right on top of it. Newer machines tend to have little visual diagrams. Okay, and I'm going to pop her off to the side and whee! What I didn't do is there's a release for this. There we go. Much better. Okay, I'm sure I have enough thread on here to now do all the way around the bottom. Okay, I'm going to just basically put both these, ooh, you don't want to sit on there. You are thinner. What am I going to do? So I don't have a second spool on this vintage machine for where this can go. So I'm using my handy dandy thread holder so that I can feed it up through here. And it's just going to come right next to this. So we have the thread. Boy, that wants to snag on here. Let's see if I can get that to go higher up. That's going to be too high. I'm just wanting to have less of this protrude over the top. Yeah, now it's coming off really nice and evenly. Okay, so I'm putting this next to it. You can rig almost anything. Like I've seen people put things in a bowl and have the thread just come back up over the top. So this is going to come basically through the same path that the other thread is going through. So I'm going to thread this machine up as I would normally, and most machines go, whoop, they go up through a guide, down through a guide, around a tension plate, up through the take-up lever, they get slid to the front, then they tend to go through one, sometimes two more guides. There's always one right above the needle that you need to get, that needs to capture the thread. And then I like to put my presser foot down when I'm threading my needles. It just makes it easier to see. I also put my finger behind. That makes it easier to see. This is the hardest thing about sewing, is learning to thread up your needle. The path of the thread is not as hard as getting the thread to actually go through the little hole. And I also, once get it through, I like to capture it with my finger so it doesn't slide back out. That can be just so annoying. I just got it there and now it's sliding back out. Okay, so I'm not worrying about the bottom thread color. You can, I mean, if this was a professional context, certainly you would do the same color on the bottom as on the top, but it's not going to show that much on the bottom. So I am going through the same path and threading it up. Oops. And it's going to need less tension, because what is going through here now are two pieces of thread instead of one. So we're loosening up the tension so that it doesn't so it's not too tight for it, right? And now I'm just going through the same path with this second thread. And I don't want these guys crossing down here, so I'm they're all tangled. Which goes on the left? The one that went on the left should stay on the left. Yeah, and this one that is going on the right should stay on the right. Great. Okay, so now I'm threading the other side of this. What is this? Where the heck did this come from? I wonder. Did anyone see? Where did this come from? Oh my gosh, I have a sewing machine part that's just like, I'm putting it in Lucia's case. I'm sure that there will come a moment where I want it, and that it came off of her, so there she goes. Okay. I don't speak Italian, so I don't know if I'm saying her name right. But all of my sewing machines are named after designers from the era they were built to inspire me and you. Okay. So you thread both of these, and of course your thread goes under the presser foot. This presser foot has a sort of a side area. So that's the threading up situation. A lot of machines have a second place you can put this, or I sometimes put on my side mounting thread holder, I sometimes put both of my threads together there. It's just that the bobbin didn't want to go around. This is a thicker one than the modern ones. So let's zoom it in so that you can see how it looks when we sew it. Before I do any sewing, after I thread up a machine, I always do a little sewing test to make sure that everything is copacetic before I go into the fabric that I really need. I like to use the scrap from the same fabric because that'll tell me the most information. So I'm off camera now gathering the scrap. Okay, so we're going to try just sewing a little test stitch just through one layer along here to make sure everything is going well and that tension's where we're happy with it and stuff like that. Okay, and it actually looks like it's fine. On the back you can see that there's the black thread and that there are two layers of the top thread coming in, and on the top you can see this little double layer stitch. So when we fold it over and go along, that's just what it's going to look like. I might make the stitch just a little wider. So let's see. I think this is a little bit wider. So it's a little bit more like a basting stitch. I just want kind of a longer stitch. So, oh, that's the iron turning off if you hear that. Beep, it is just the iron turning off. Okay, so you will, when you sew the hem, you'll actually sew from on top. So it's the two layers of stitching go on the top and the bobbin goes on the back. And I feel like that's going to look pretty good, right? So I've done my little test stitch. I've got my hem pressed into place. We're going to sew on the right side of the garment. I like to start at one of the side seams, and I like to head towards the back. So I'm turning this right side out right now so I can kind of see which is the back, front, back. Okay, front, back. So I'm going to sew towards the back. So I'm going first towards the back. So if I encounter any problems here at the beginning, I'll be sewing towards the back and it'll be in the side seam, which is the least noticeable place. When I'm sewing a hem that goes all the way around, I do not back tack. Instead, I will overlap at the end of it, and the overlapping layers of stitching will create the knot. I'm going to start just past that lumpy part so that I don't get hung up on it right away. And just making sure all my stitching's good. Want to hold on to all your threads in the back. And here we go. And I like to line up with the edge of the presser foot. The important thing is that you don't choose a seam allowance that is bigger or close to the edge of your thing. Actually, you know what? I think I'll go a little wider than this. So I'm just going to pull out my little bit of stitching that I've done so far. And there's less curling if I go a little wider. So I do often use the edge of my presser foot, so that's kind of habit. But I think I'm going to go to like a 5/8, which is a little bit more normal. I think that I was folding generously, and yep. Oh, no, that's a quarter. This must be 5/8. So I'm going to not 5/8, but a half inch. A half inch. Yeah, I feel good about that. It just looks a little bit more like a conventional hem. And the goal here is to be able to modify your clothes, and people can't really tell that you modify them, you know? So this is a upcycling technique that doesn't draw attention to itself. Do I need a special sewing machine to do this? No. Sewing machine needles are pretty much standard size, so I didn't even need a special kind of double needle. I did need a double needle, but I didn't need a special kind of double needle. And on knit side seams, a lot of times what you see commercially is kind of like a serger overlock kind of thing. And on the side seams, I really recommend just sewing with a normal stitch, and then in the seam allowance on the edge, going back with a zigzag stitch. So what happens then is if that normal stitch pops, which is very unlikely unless you have something really skin tight or really broad shoulders or something like that, if it pops, the second layer of stitch, the zigzag, it has stretch because it's going from side to side, and when you pull it, it just goes straight, and that's what gives it that much more stretch. And you don't need a whole lot more stretch. Okay, now we're going over a seam. This is the first part that might be a little tricky. So I'm just, in case it starts to hang up, I'm pinching it behind so that I can pull it through if I need to. And it didn't hang up. I didn't need to pull it through. I'm really just guiding the fabric here to keep it in alignment with that half-inch seam allowance that we're doing. You will be so impressed with yourself. Do not be intimidated by knits. I'm using a vintage sewing machine to sew all this down, and here's what it's looking like. It's looking like a regular hem on a t-shirt. That's what it's looking like. And on the other side, you can see that we've caught that one layer. Here I sort of folded a little farther over. It's better to be a little bit on the narrow side with your hem and a little bit on the big side with your fold over, so that you always catch that. I always, if it bugs me, I can go in and kind of trim off the extra fabric on the inside. Chances are it won't bug you. You won't ever see it. You won't ever think about it. You will just get done with your little knit hem and think, oh my gosh, I had no idea I could do such a good job so easily. It's my second sewing project or whatever. And I'm already doing things that look really pro. Okay, and then here at the end, we overlap by about an inch. And that is how we have a knot so that that's not going to come out. One thing to know if you're a beginning sewer is to keep your lever up at the top to release the threads. Okay, so was that fun? Huh? Can you see all that? Okay, we're going to go back to the camera. And I'll just hold it up and you can look at it sort of in the long shot. Whoa, things are flying. Yeah, okay. Joy. Okay, here we are with our little cropped t-shirt. And ta-da! There it is. And it's not curling at the end, and it's got like a kind of gentle curve to it. That's the design that I liked. What it doesn't have is there is one little hole that I found here when I was cutting things that I hadn't seen before. So it doesn't have a patch on this one little hole. So I'm going to show you another little thing that could be helpful for you. This is going to be a very tiny hole interfacing patch, right? Now, these are not the most stable. It's not a long-term solution, but it would make it so I could kind of wear it tomorrow instead of me having to come up for an idea of something. No, you know what? I'm going to come up with an idea first. I'm going to show you two things because we've got time. We've got about half an hour. So first I'm going to show you like a little interfacing cheat. Okay. I'm going to take you over to the ironing board to do this. So let me get the iron warming up while I grab some interfacing. And I just turn my iron on. I have to turn it down and up again. Okay, let's put this here so that it's ready for us. And these shirts that were not good hem examples can go back in the closet. I do like to put things away, but it takes extra time. So I don't like to do it when I'm showing you stuff. All right, and I found a few little scrap pieces of interfacing. Okay, so this is the quick fix kind of cheat technique first. And then we're going to make a little gray heart-shaped patch. And I'll show you how to do a little patch, okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to find that hole and I'm going to press it flat from the backside. So where are you? Hole? There you are. Okay. And I'm going to press it flat, but I want it to be flat with with the hole kind of closed. So I want all those little fibers to kind of go in together so that they're cinching up and closing that little hole. And then we're going to use the iron to block it in place like that. So I'm just having trouble getting, it's kind of a bigger hole than this is ideal to do this technique that I'm showing you. Okay, but we're going to try and use the iron to make that hole disappear. That's the first step. I'm going to try ironing it. And if that hole did not disappear enough, it didn't disappear enough. So now I'm just going in with my fingers. I'm just trying to like mush it together without getting any wrinkles to the point where you really can't see it, but without wrinkles. So that's the size of the hole is the issue here. So I am getting a wrinkle to get rid of it, but I'm going to do that anyway to show you the technique. Dang, you just do not want to go away, Mr. Hole, do you? See, this is the great thing about a live feed is you see how it really is and the problems that really come up rather than just the good version of it. Ah, okay. Okay, there we go. I cannot see the hole. I can't see the blue underneath really anymore. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of heat activated interfacing, a very small piece. And I'm going to put it right over that little area. And this is basically heat activated glue. So the little dots are going to glue it together. And interfacing is not known for being the most secure hold in the world, but this is a very lightweight fabric. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, about 10 seconds. I am being shy about how much heat and pressure I put on it because I don't want to burn the fabric. Yeah?
You want to be on the other camera?
Oh, yeah. Am I on the wrong camera?
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
I don't, am I on the right camera? I can't see from here. Okay. Okay. So yeah, it turns out I do need someone because that's happened 3 times already. Okay. So, yeah. So what we can do is we can put this little patch on here and then when you turn it over, it's sort of holding that whole area in place. It's not very visible and you're not seeing the white because all the gray fibers are being sort of held on top. what happens after 1 or 2 washes is this starts to curl up and it's not a very great permanent patch. So we're going to go on to the next fun thing, which is putting a little more permanent patch on here. Again, I'm going to start with some interfacing. I'm going to use some of the same gray. I'm making it a subtle patch. I'm using the same gray. I probably should make it more like drawing attention to itself. This is an artistic choice. I'm going to use the same gray as we had on the shirt, and I'm just going to make a little section of it stiffer. So I'm putting the interfacing on with the glue side down just to make this stiff enough that I can use it. So I'm not worrying about this being a permanent or secure hold. This is a temporary hold. I do something similar a lot of times when I'm patching with just a glue stick and a second layer of fabric can work too. So if you don't have interfacing, don't feel like that's the only thing you can do. You can find a little piece of stiffer fabric and a glue stick and glue it on. What I want here is enough stiffness that it's going to kind of keep that needle from pushing the fabric down into the mouth of the sewing machine. So some little degree of thickness that the fabric didn't have to begin with. And I like heart shapes. This is a very bad choice for a beginner, especially a small heart like this. I highly recommend starting with squares or something easier. Squares are really easy. You can turn on the corners. Hearts are hard because there are a lot of curves that are very tight. Okay, so this is, and now I will use glue to stick this on here. This is going to be my patch. And I use glue because it is faster than pins. So I'm finding the little hole. Here's my little, where my little hole is. So this is where the patch needs to go. I use glue because it's faster than pins and it holds it in all places. Pins, when you put a pin in, I'm just going to show you a pin real quick. It tends to pucker the fabric up because you have to, it holds it at a different layer, and glue you can get really, really flat. And one thing that tends to make things look good when they're going through the sewing machine and getting sewn down is if they're really, really flat. So we're making this as flat as we can. And to glue it down, I'm also going to make it really flat. Usually I put a, this is basic gluing 101 I'm teaching right now, is I usually put a little piece of paper behind it when I'm, this is so I don't get it on the ironing board, I don't get it on my fabric, I would put a little piece of paper. And I'm just, this is some Elmer's glue, I also have some Office Max glue, any glue stick is fine as long as it's going to wash out. And again, it's just a temporary hold that I want it to be, the edges are the important part. Where's my little, I did such a good job patching that I can't actually see where it is. It's right here. And I'm just going to put this on. Yes, right on there. Great, so nice subtle little heart. And I like to set it with heat. That just makes the glue dry really fast. Okay, now we're going to go back to the sewing machine. I am going to switch to a single needle for this. Am I? Yeah, because with all those tight turns, the double needle will be really hard. So I am going to switch to a single needle for this, and I'm going to head back to the sewing machine. Let me get you the right camera for that. Okay, sewing machine camera in place. All right. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, whoo, I think my case might need to be replaced here. This is really falling apart. You know, it's been 20 years. So we offer this case a little forgiveness for not doing such a great job because it's really been with me for a long time. Okay, let's put our little double needle back away because I am going to switch to a single. It's going to be very hard to do turns if I stay with the double. And loosening that. Okay, and just so you know, ballpoint, BP, that was my abbreviation if you noticed that on the sewing machine, stands for ballpoint. Ballpoint allows the needle to go through knit fabrics easily. So I'm actually using a needle that makes this a little easier to sew than if it was just a standard needle. Now I'm taking out my second layer of thread here because we're done with it. So I'm just taking a minute to wind that up and put that aside. Real-time demos include all these little things that you wouldn't necessarily think are part of sewing, but they all take time and effort and slow you down. And so this does give you a much better sense of how things really work. Threading up my machine again. I think I have a close-up, so you probably can't see that it's happening. I'm probably going to need to tighten up my tension because I had loosened it up for the hem. And I'm going through all my little guides here. Whenever I thread the needle, I always snip off the end so that it's not got any stray fibers making it harder to get through here than it needs to be. In this case, there are lots of different options for how you want to finish the edges. In this case, I'm going to go with the zigzag finish because I put that white interfacing in, and if I did a raw edge finish, then that would eventually show. When I'm doing a zigzag stitch, I want to make sure that the thread, because there's a lot more thread involved with the zigzag stitch, there's a lot more poking it into that hole. I want to make sure that I don't get trapped down in there. So once again, I'm going to do a test stitch. I'm a big test stitcher person. I use a piece of scrap paper or something in the back to stabilize. And I'm just going to see what kind of, let me go wide so you can see where I'm adjusting this. Can I show you that? Yes, let's show you. Oh, and you know, it's gotten a little dark in here. Let's also bump up the light. Okay. So just, we'll readjust the shot in a second. So where I'm adjusting my settings on this vintage machine is I'm adjusting my zigzag width. So this is showing me the width. Look, the double, they even have double needle width there. So I'm keeping the same position, the center position. I'm staying with a straight stitch. No, wait, I want to go to a zigzag stitch. What am I saying? Zigzag. And then this is how many stitches per inch. And what I want to do is kind of cover all of the edges of the little patch up, all these little edges I'm going to want to cover up. So I'm going to want it to be kind of dense. That means a lot more tight stitch. So now let me go back to the bottom part where we're sewing, and we can test out the settings that I just took a gamble on, right? Let me see if I can get in here tight enough that you'll be able to see what the stitch looks like. And in this case, I'm using the same fabric. I'm not using the interfaced layer, but it'll give me an idea. And I'm using a little bit of paper behind to make sure that my fabric doesn't clog up in the machine. And yes, that means I'll have to tear the paper off afterwards. We'll show you that part too. I feel like this is a good looking satin stitch. No, maybe it's a little loose. It's not full coverage, so I want it a little tighter. So I'm going a little tighter on my dial, and I'm just going to give another little test. So down there, Mr. Thread. Another little testy. Well, that looks tighter. My black thread from the bottom is showing, but I don't think it will with the thicker layer of the interfacing in there. I'm going to try going even a little tighter. It still seems like it's not quite enough coverage. I don't want to go so tight that the tighter I go, the more I have a threat of things jamming up in the machine. So I want to at some point the thread will start to pile up before it gets to the back part of the presser foot, and then that'll prevent the presser foot from going forward. That's when I've gone too far. And I am on the cusp of that here. So somewhere between that last stitch and this one, I'm just going to go a little wider than I want just to prevent problems with it piling up. And you can see on the back that this was my first effort, and it was a very wide one. And then we got in more and more, and this is really a little too tight. Okay. Okay. So I've got that little test done, and I feel confident about the amount of stitch that I'm going to do. And I am going to place my needle on the outside edge. So it's ready to come down on the outside edge. I'm going to put some paper behind it, and I'm going to just opt for a little smaller piece of paper so I don't have to mess with as much stuff. I like to start usually at the bottom of my applique for the same reason that I started at the bottom of the hem on the side headed towards the back, just because it's the least noticeable place. So, sorry, I'm finding some things I didn't put away. It does help me to put a few things away to keep track of. Okay, so I set my needle down, and one thing you can do is lift up the front of your presser foot when you're aiming things. I set my needle down just on the outside, and I know that it's going to go to the inside first, so my first stitch is going to go forward. Ooh. I'm going to do a tiny little back tack here, and this is a place that it could get jammed up because that adds a little bit of thread. So I was pulling on my paper and the fabric behind just to make sure that I started advancing. So I'm looking at the edge of my little patch as I go, and I'm going to go keep it in alignment with this little corner of the foot. So hopefully my outside edge. So as I hit this turn, I don't go nearly as fast, and I do kind of stop and adjust my fabric every now and then. I always want to get things as flat as I can, kind of going right through there. So I'm adjusting a little bit, and usually if I'm going this way around a turn, I leave the needle on this side. If I'm going that way around a turn, I leave the needle on the other side when I pause, and always leave the needle in. It's really a common beginner mistake is to pick that needle up, and what the needle's doing is it's working like a pin to kind of keep track of your place. Okay, and now I'm just turning it a little so that I'm not pulling away from the edge, and here I'm using the hand crank for a higher level of precision. And I am, now that I'm doing this, just a little disappointed that I didn't take the extra time to thread up one of those class 66 bobbins, because the black thread is showing through and it's not a super cool look. So 2 points for the pros that do take the extra time to do that, and a negative point for the upcycler. Okay, and you can see where the turn is tight that I'm having to stop and lift my presser foot with greater frequency. And as I curve and go down into that bottom, you know, it's more and more so. And this is where to do something like this is experience is really helpful, because we're going to not necessarily be able to see that much the inside of the heart. So how far down I go. And I'm also going to want to make this turn at the center point very much on the inside. Okay, so I'm fortunately still lined up right here on the outside edge, so it's looking good for actually coverage. And getting ready to do another sharp turn. And that also is sort of experience. I feel like when COVID happened and I made a whole bunch of masks and I had a sort of curvy nose bridge piece, and I had to go around that about 100 times. I feel like that's really where I got sort of better at doing these like tight turns, curvy things. and knowing, how much you need to turn. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. Some people have better hand-eye coordination than me for sure, but if you're not good at it at first, what I am saying is it might take a little bit of practice. This little heart shape might take a little bit of practice. A square is a lot easier to do, a much better beginner choice. And we're getting there though. And I'm having it dragging a little. I feel it's not advancing very well, so it's hanging up just a little on the threads in the back, and I might have to make the stitch just a little wider to not have that problem. And I'm just going to pull on my paper in the back just a little bit. Okay. And now I've gotten a pucker, which is the worst thing that can happen with the paper. It's like, oh, it's puckering. I'm solving that by pulling the fabric slightly to the right. So stretch knits, one easy, nice thing about them is because they are stretchy, you can kind of stretch those puckers out. But I am having a not perfect demo here. I think that most of my demos are not perfect, and I think that's better for you than seeing perfection in action, because this is much more the experience you're going to have. So one thing I can do if it's getting too tight under there is I can release some of the paper underneath the area that I'm going over, so that let's see what's going on here. Yes. So I'm just ripping some of the paper underneath so that it can kind of release a little bit more. Because what's puckering it is that the fabric is stretching, but the paper isn't. Ugh, I didn't leave my needle in that time. It's okay, I lined it back up by sight. Okay. So we've got a little patch. This is the satin stitch approach. And I'm going to pull, you can see it's all heart-shaped back here. I'm just going to pull my paper off. There's going to be a bunch of paper right underneath the satin stitch part that I'm not going to worry about. That's going to come out, in over the course of time in the wash. And there's that little patch that we put on before. So it's completely hidden behind our new patch, and it's just this weird little subtle little gray heart-shaped design now. On the front of, where are you? There you are, on the front of our hemline. So the hem is hemmed, the patch is patched, and there are no holes anywhere. How was that? Was that fun? And my iron's turning off again. Okay, I'm going to take us back to the me view. And I could see why nobody would want to watch my first live feed effort. I think that that was very much like what it's like to actually be in one of my sewing classes, but the expectation and experience on YouTube is a lot more condensed and refined. If you have specific questions, however, this is going to be ideal because it's going to be something where you can see exactly what I'm talking about. You can see what the struggles are because I have those struggles. It's not all prettied up and made to look perfect so that you don't know how it really is and the things that you have to deal with and compensate for. And, we all make decisions. I maybe regret putting the black bobbin in the bottom and not threading up another one, but I wanted to make the whole demo happen quicker for you. And I'm not sure I'm actually going to wear that shirt anyway because I've put on a few pounds since then. But I'm going to hang on to it because I'm probably going to take those pounds off again. This is one of the reasons that I have so many garments in my wardrobe. Oh, my app. Oh, I didn't bring my phone up here. So that's another learning. I've got to have everything on hand. I would show you my new closet app. I've been using Index, and a closet app is super fun. So it is playing with your clothes. Like it is a little time vacuum initially to put all your clothes into it, especially if you're like me and you go up and down sizes and you have, clothes that you don't throw out. Then you might have 300 garments in it. Yeah, you might think I'm a hoarder, but I swear I'm not a hoarder yet. I'm actively upcycling and recycling things. They're actively being worn. But index is really fun. It's a great way to visualize what you can do with your clothes without having to find them all and put the outfits together and try them on. I think that if you're planning a special event, you do want to try it on, because what index can't tell you is, oh, this top is actually too snug to go with that bottom, or, the crop is too short, or you really need something. These two aren't flattering together. It might look fine on the page, but you need to see it on your body. But it's great for planning things, and for the garments that you know really well, or the basic garments, you can kind of put them together and dress them up. It's super fun. It's really super. That's what I do late at night now when I should be, thinking about my next YouTube script. It's like go and I put index, or I work on my pillow and listen to a book on tape. Okay, well, folks, I think I want to wrap up our first live feed ever early. The next time it's going to just be an hour or maybe half an hour until when we get to the point where people actually have an hour's worth of questions. I'll do an hour-long live feed. But this is, just some smattering of different things that I'm thinking about that I thought I could share with you visually. And please, if you did watch this and it's not August 28th yet, please consider doing a sketch for our contest. It's really about coming up with the best ideas for you for upcycling. So we're looking for really easy to make, cool, funky new things that are going to appeal to a lot of people. So maybe not that funky, cool, new, fresh, civilized. Civilized, but appealing to a lot of people. And the garments that we have in the contest are all commonly found garments. So if we get really brilliant ideas from y'all, then there are lots of people that could be taking advantage of that. This is really a platform, a vehicle, a channel to share ideas with each other on how we can be more sustainable with our clothes. The garment industry is one of the third or fourth largest polluting industries. I've heard it exaggerated beyond that, but it really is down in the 3 or 4 zone. Past petrochemical and agriculture, okay? Um, and we really need to rethink what we're doing with our clothes. We should look fantastic, but there's no point spending all this money and treating our clothing like it's disposable. It's not. It's it's not. We can't keep doing that. It's really hard on the planet. It's really hard on the people. And it's a bad habit of thinking in terms of disposable society. We really have to think in terms of resourceful instead of disposable. So I love to hear your ideas about how we can be more resourceful. And give me a thumbs up. If you did watch this entire video, you're crazy, but give me a thumbs up, because I'll be back and I'll do more like it. Better ones. And let me know in the comments what you'd like me to see improving on. I promise next time I do a live feed, I'll recruit someone to switch the cameras for me, make sure that the batteries aren't going down, and fetch things that I've forgotten. Okay? Thank you. Bye. I just decided to end on my own. No one's ever going to watch